Mental health. The thing that you, I, and even your sweet old grandma have probably struggled to deal with at some point in your life. Today you may be dealing with your own mental health struggles and it may affect you on a day-to-day basis. And today we are going to be speaking about this wonderful topic to do with mental illness. Because yes, most of you watching this right now are most likely chronically online, which is in itself a bit of a mental illness. So firstly, we need to take a look at the brain. This thing right here is a very, very weird thing, and this person right here has one of these things, and it can be an absolutely amazing thing that triggers awesome, fun, quirky thoughts and feelings that just so happen to brighten your day. But it can also be the worst possible thing on planet Earth that makes you want to do things that you will possibly regret, and also post things onto the internet that you probably shouldn't be posting. And that's pretty much the main question to start this video off of, hey, why did you post that thing on the internet on Twitter about She-Hulk the other day? Why did you post that She-Hulk should be a little bit more thick in that certain scene? Why did you post that? Because why did you post this thing is a big talking point in regards to the situation involving Gabbie Hanna and her TikTok. Because in the last few weeks, Gabbie Hanna has been in an absolute storm on social media. Like, this situation is just everywhere. Everyone is talking about this, and honestly, I feel bad for being so glued to my screen during all of this. But yeah, Gabbie has been in another situation involving TikTok, but in this case, a lot of people, basically the entire internet, have been very worried, concerned about what Gabbie has been posting on TikTok in the last few weeks. And I'm honest to God not being critical here when I say this, but it was genuinely impressive at the rate Gabbie was posting on TikTok. Like, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of TikToks per day were being posted. But at the same time, a lot of people were saying that Gabbie Hanna could be perhaps faking another breakdown on TikTok in order to promote her music, which she actually recently released. And I'm not gonna lie to you, my friends, I was a part of that crowd. When I originally saw this situation, I did think, you know what, this is probably another case of Gabbie doing something for attention on the internet. And I even started working on a YouTube video, which we actually got almost ready to post, but then we decided it's probably for the best we hold off and see what happens, because things started to get sinister. Things started to get so concerning that what was going on Gabbie's TikTok was definitely real. Gabbie was allowing strangers into her house. The police were called and actually detained Gabbie, and it just started to get unbelievably serious and genuinely concerning and worrying. So I stopped working on my video. Because I've had my plenty of criticisms of Gabbie, but I really felt no need to jump onto the internet and bring all those points up from the past and say, well, what about this? What about this? Because to be honest with you, I didn't feel like it was the right time to say these things, and I felt like I just wanted to wait for this thing to kind of all blow over and then give my conclusive opinion where I can actually add to the conversation and speak about how social media in general has responded to everything in this Gabbie Hanna situation, and kind of display how it's even worse than we possibly thought, because now things have started to calm down. Gabbie has actually gone on TikTok explaining the situation, which has led to even further allegations around her, with people saying that Gabbie is pretty much gaslighting everybody now. And yeah, with everything kind of calming down, I thought now is the time to speak about this. Firstly, I want to go over a summary of the situation really quickly. Now, I'm not going to go through every single TikTok, because to be honest with you, I think a million other content creators have done that. That's not me criticizing. That's just me saying I don't really think I'm adding anything to the conversation by saying, yes, Gabbie did this in a TikTok that 2 billion people have seen, and also did this in a TikTok. I'll go through a few of these TikToks, but ultimately I do just want to give a bit of a summary to do with this situation, and also speak about the very weird social media reaction, because there were a lot of things being said on both sides, to the people supporting Gabbie and the people against Gabbie. It seemed to me that a lot of people were using this situation to deflect criticism, whilst also some people were using it to score points, but also it seemed to me that a lot of people that claimed to support Gabbie were extremely exploitative in this situation by taking advantage of it, going to Gabbie's house and recording and live streaming the behind the scenes footage of what what Gabbie was putting on her TikTok. There were a lot of weird things in this situation, and I'm not going to come on here and claim that I'm a massive fan of Gabbie and I'm outright supportive of Gabbie. I'm absolutely not, and I completely understand that my videos in the past being critical of Gabbie have probably not made her feel great, which we will get into in this video, but I am going to come on here and say that I can come at this from a neutral perspective and say that both sides in this situation, not everyone, but a lot of people on both sides, of people who are supportive of Gabbie and against Gabbie, have done a lot of weird things, and I want to go through all of that. But also, I have actually interviewed a professional psychologist and psychotherapist about this situation and asking what we can possibly do in future situations like that and how society should actually handle these things. And I've also interviewed somebody who is a DID system, asking for their perspective on DID, because there has been a lot of conversation to do with DID with this whole Gabbie Hanna situation, and I think what's best is to speak about DID and actually give the facts, give people's real perspectives on DID, rather than just chatting shit and chatting utter nonsense. And then after that, I want to then end this video by going through the aftermath and going through Gabbie's recent responses, where she seems to blame a lot of people for this situation. And yeah, as you can tell, it's probably going to be a long video. It's already way too long, and we've not even got into the first part yet. So before we do that, I just want to say, and be very annoying, please just subscribe to the YouTube channel, because I've been recording for ages today. Please, I know it's annoying and I know I'm a beg, but I just would like you to subscribe for my hard work. Thanks, I appreciate it. Let's get into this. But yes, my friends, it's time to actually get into the situation that went down on TikTok 2 weeks ago. Now, personally, I would see this and think that yes, this probably is one of the most spoken about situations that has ever happened on TikTok. And if you haven't seen what happened, I would be genuinely shocked and can honestly only assume that you yourself are not chronically online. And I do just have to ask, how is that? And how can I possibly reach that status? Because to be honest with you, I feel bad for the amount that I was paying attention to the situation, but I just could not help but keep watching and looking, because to be honest, this thing was just so unbelievably insane for so many reasons. Not just the main player in the situation, Gabbie Hanna, but just everything else that happened afterwards. But yes, we start off on a warm summer's eve in August. Basically, Gabbie Hanna was posting a lot of TikToks. Now, usually I would say if you're regularly posting on TikTok, I'm quite concerned for you. But in this case, Gabbie was posting a lot of TikToks. At one point, it seemed that she was posting hundreds of TikToks a day where she was screaming and shouting and doing concerning things in these TikToks, and it did just start to worry a lot of people out there. But the thing is, fellas, when it comes to Gabbie's TikTok, it is something that has been scrutinized over the years. I myself have made, I think, around 2 or 3 videos speaking about Gabbie's TikTok, because she, in the past, has admitted to faking breakdowns for, I guess, attention, to go viral, to, in a lot of people's opinions, promote her projects, such as her music albums and stuff like that. So a lot of people were seeing this and thinking, well, you know, it's probably just another case of Gabbie Hanna, well, simply being Gabbie Hanna. But at the same time, there was a side of people who were very concerned for Gabbie, and a lot of people started speculating over whether Gabbie Hanna was going through a manic episode. Because as much as I did use the phrase "the boy who cried wolf" at the beginning of this situation, because yes, as I said, there is a history of faking things on this TikTok, it did seem that over time things started to get more concerning. It did seem that Gabbie was posting more and more. She was seeming, I guess, to portray a lot of concerning pieces of behavior. She started acting erratic, saying that she's on a spiritual journey, and basically saying a lot of things that are just out of the ordinary, and even saying a lot of statements that were, in a lot of people's perspectives, I say a lot of people's perspective, in my perspective, offensive. Things which you just hear and think, what's going on here?
Guys, it's always been a battle of the sexes. Literally. And it got to a point where it's like, guys, they're getting confused. Literally, you're not transgender. Hey, TikTok. Hey, Gen Z. I got a question for you, because I can't sleep. But I can see. Why are you so accepting of the idea of dissociative identity disorder, where little kids decide that they can switch personalities whenever they want, and they all have different names and wear different clothes, and they have their own little room in the house that you built in your mind, and here's how you get to it. I feel like someone else now. Did you fucking meditate and create something with your imagination? It's almost as if you create your own reality. And because you don't have faith in God, and because you didn't just say, God, I'm kind of fucking scared, I believe in you. Will you please only allow me to see what you want me to see? Please only allow me to hear the truth.
Now, before I give any of my opinions on that TikTok, I think there is one thing we can certainly take from this, is that this is definitely different to last year. When Gabbie was accused and admitted to faking breakdowns on TikTok to go viral, it seemed different. In those TikToks, she was just doing a bit of creepy, wacky things here. She was doing dances where she seemed to be acting a little bit different to usual, but she wasn't really saying anything. She was never saying anything controversial, but in this case, Gabbie was saying things which could be, well, which were or are offensive towards people with DID, but also to trans people as well. A lot of people started to get upset with Gabbie, saying, yes, we are worried for you, but at the same time, we cannot help but be upset and offended by these things, and I can very much understand that. And yes, as I said earlier, we will be going into the moral dilemma of criticizing somebody who is clearly not doing well, but yes, I think what we can take from this and take from these controversial statements is that something felt off. Something felt different, and I don't think anybody could deny that, yeah, there is something clearly wrong here.
Help me! Help me! Wake the fuck up! Help me help us.
And my friends, so these TikToks that I've shown you right here are really only the bottom of the barrel of the things that were being posted on Gabbie's TikTok, and I understand that speculating about somebody's mental health is never really a good thing to do, and I guess diagnosing somebody because what you see them post on TikTok is obviously not a good thing to do, but you can't help but look at this and think, yeah, something is wrong, there is something clearly going on here, and as much as we want to, I guess, play moral gods and be like, oh, well, we're not going to do all these bad things that we shouldn't do, you can't help but speculate and think, yes, something bad is happening here, and people started to get worried. There were a lot of trends out there about helping Gabbie Hanna. A lot of people were saying, yes, I have my criticisms of Gabbie, but this is clearly something different, and we need to help her here. And with that mention of criticism and people being critical of Gabbie, it actually sparked up a debate of people basically saying, is it okay to criticize Gabbie Hanna, or just in general criticize people that aren't particularly mentally doing so well? Yes, people were concerned, but at the same time, Gabbie was saying a lot of provocative things in her TikToks, and you can have the belief that, oh, well, this is her in a manic episode, we shouldn't be critical of that. I mean, you can have that belief, that's fine, yet at the same time, I think it is also fine for somebody to still at the same time be offended by those statements, because, I mean, these are statements which do directly affect a lot of people, especially when somebody with a platform is saying them, whether they mean those statements or not. They are saying those things and posting it to millions of people, and I can understand somebody being upset by that. And Gabbie herself did actually confirm that, yes, with all the speculation about whether she was going for a manic episode or not, Gabbie said that yes, at one point she was going through what seemed to be a manic episode.
Now that I've acknowledged that, yes, internet, you are right, I was manic, and I didn't know it at the time, as most people in a hypomanic or manic state don't recognize it until they're out of it.
Now, even with this confirmation after this situation, Gabbie has gone on to further speak about this and actually state that she originally wasn't in a manic episode, and she was actually triggered by people in the comment sections and all the people speaking about it into an actual manic episode.
A lot of people were calling me manic in the first place, which was actually really triggering and probably took me out of a hypomanic episode and into a manic episode.
But to be honest with you, I can kind of get why people were being speculative. Now, whilst I will say it a million times, I don't agree with diagnosing people on the internet, I can understand why people will see out of the ordinary erratic behavior and think something different, something bad is going on here, and I can understand why people would be concerned. Now, I don't think that's a justification into going into the comment section of your favorite influencers saying, you're having a manic episode. I don't understand that, but I can understand the I guess the people who, basically the entire internet being worried and concerned that something obviously different is happening here, especially when you look at the actual definition of a manic episode, where it says you are extremely happy or excited, even euphoric, you don't sleep but still feel rested, you have an inflated self-esteem. And this was Gabbie, who in these TikToks was pretty much claiming to be, I don't know, the second coming. She was having a lot of religious experiences.
Heaven, earth, and purgatory, as it was in the beginning, is now, and shall be forever, heaven and earth, amen.
And that's fine, but it seemed a bit different. It didn't seem like she was just converting to Christianity and becoming the new YouTube's girl to find. It seemed a bit more than that. It seemed a little bit euphoric. It seemed that there was an inflated self-esteem here. And it almost felt that Gabbie thought she was invincible and she was just completely acting out of character to the normal perceived character of Gabbie Hanna on the internet. That's not a reason for you to go fucking diagnosing all your favorite influencers. It's just me saying I can understand the concern. But yeah, as I said, I at one point wasn't concerned. I thought this was the whole boy who cried wolf scenario given Gabbie's previous history. But no, things started to get serious when I'm sorry, but this whole thing, which we're now going into, is just so utterly insane. Basically, some fucking... I want to say some descriptive words, which I don't think the monetization system will like, or the algorithm will like, but basically, some dickhead went to Gabbie's house under the pretense of I'm trying to help her, and this is when things started to clearly get serious and prove to me that, oh no, this shit is absolutely real.
Nicholas? Hey, Nicholas? Do you mind being on camera, or you don't want to?
I don't mind.
Okay, so I want to, oh my god, my hair. A friend just texted me, and I told him that I was going to go on a run for a guy who showed up at my house and was just feeling a little lost, asked to use the bathroom, and now we're going to go for a run together. He asked to pray with me. It was really nice.
Now, I will get into that creepy fucking weirdo later on in this video, but I do just want to continue with this summary of the situation. So yes, this person somehow found Gabbie's address. I don't really know how, but he said that he found it, and he went to her address because he found this information, and for some reason, that convinced him that he had the right to turn up to somebody's doorstep who he did not know, and he was allowed into the house of Gabbie Hanna under the pretense of he needed the toilet. Basically, in my opinion, he manipulated Gabbie here, who he very much knew was in a vulnerable state, so asking something as simple as using the toilet would obviously convince Gabbie to allowing this stranger into her house, and naturally, this started to worry a lot of people. He started live streaming himself in Gabbie's house. He started recording videos, speaking about this on his Instagram page, and even live streaming on TikTok, and this was just so unbelievably disgusting to see that somebody was going behind the scenes and just so obviously exploiting this person who wasn't doing well. Regardless of what you think of Gabbie Hanna, I think we can all agree that this is absolutely disgusting, and it resulted in an avalanche of worried tweets and worried fans and people just increasingly getting concerned, which actually after a day or so led to people starting to call the police on Gabbie Hanna, asking for the police to turn up to Gabbie's place for a wellness check. And this was genuinely insane to me when I saw this, calling the police on somebody who you don't know, have no evidence that they are in physical danger or endangering other people, but calling the police on them because what you saw they posted in a TikTok video. I'm sure a lot of people will say, oh, well, Gabbie was inviting strangers into a property, and firstly, I do have to just speed up the timeline and say, hey, she did kick the person out, but also you still don't really know what's going on in her life. I do not think it's a good idea to call for untrained professionals to turn up at somebody's house when they are mentally not doing well. I don't think that's a good idea. And this enters us into the chapter of the social media reaction to the Gabbie Hanna situation. Because yeah, that's pretty much a summary of what happened in these TikToks. Gabbie was posting a lot of erratic, out of character things of where some people were worried, a lot of people were naturally upset by some of the statements that she was making, and I will go further into that, but also this situation has seemingly now calmed down, which means we can go into this crazy reaction from social media, because some people just had the worst possible responses, with things such as the calling of the police, the going to the house when you don't know this person, the weird comments Gabbie was getting throughout all of this on her TikTok page of people being like, I'm checking in for the night shift, guys. People just making jokes. I'm not even mad at people for being critical during the situation. I'm mad at people for just making fucking dead jokes. Like jokes that weren't even funny. I think that was the biggest crime of all of this. It was just this weird trend on TikTok where people say the exact same comment throughout the entire comment section, and it's just so unbearably unfunny. But then you add it on top of this is a very serious, unstable scenario, and these people were just making the stupidest statements possible. But there's also the whole conversation regarding criticism of Gabbie Hanna that we'll go over, and also just in general with this reaction we can clearly see that there is a lack of understanding when it comes to society and mental health. And my friends, we really need to speak about some of these things, because I do just have to ask, yeah, I got very animated here, and apparently the cable went a bit weird, so I will just kind of calm myself down here, because to be honest with you, I went a little bit overboard, and I will just say, who thought it was a good idea to call the police on somebody that they did not know, and they did not have any evidence that they were even in some form of physical danger? Like, I do just have to say, fellas, you do not know these celebrities, you do not know these influencers, you do not know the people in this comment section, so why would you think it's a good idea to call the police on people where you barely have any context other than a few 60-second TikToks? Now, I was getting very angry in that little clip, which kind of went a bit off because, you know, the microphone did not like me being animated, but basically, that's what I'm saying here. Calling the police on mentally ill people usually, not in all cases, but usually isn't the best of ideas. The police are not mental health professionals. What happened here is Gabbie Hanna was detained by the police, and she did say that yes, she had a bad experience with them, and I'm not shocked, because at the end of the day, the police aren't mental health experts. You can say, oh, well, they're civil servants and they're here to help people. I mean, I'm yet to really see that much evidence of it, you know? I mean, especially when it comes to mentally ill people. From my own personal experience of when somebody has had the police called on them because they aren't mentally doing too well, it never really goes too well. They'll get detained and put in a room of where they will be treated like they're not a regular human being. I mean, I'm not saying that's what happened here, but from my own experience, and clearly from a lot of other people's experience, that is something that happens. I think if there's one thing we can take from this situation, not just with Gabbie Hanna, because I want this video to be about lessons we can take from this situation and apply it to future situations involving people that aren't mentally doing well. And lesson number one is don't call the police on people that aren't mentally doing too well if you have no evidence that they aren't going to physically harm themselves or other people. Please, for the love of God, do not do that. And if you're a police officer watching this right now and thinking, oh, well, I'm not a bad guy, I just want to help people, that's great, you know, that's fantastic. But unless you are an actual expert when it comes to mental health and actually have some form of degree in mental health, or it's just your profession, I'd suggest maybe not getting yourself involved in detaining mentally ill people. I don't think that is a good idea. You can have all of the critiques in the world about Gabbie, but you cannot deny that calling the police on somebody you don't know without all of the context is not a good idea and probably is only going to make things worse. So please, for the third time, do not do it. But secondly, my friends, we then need to move on to another stupid thing that came from this situation, another stupid thing that happens in a lot of situations with influencers, and yes, that is going to an influencer's house or a celebrity's house, or how about somebody's house of who you actually don't know. You're not the fucking postman, you're not delivering the latest Amazon delivery, you're not doing that. If you are doing that, then sure, you can go to somebody's house and knock on their door. But in this situation, what we have is a human being going to Gabbie Hanna's house with the premise that they are trying to help. This person that did this was not trying to help, in my opinion. As much as they can come on social media and say, oh, I just thought I was doing the right thing, you were not. Because for one, you don't know what's going on behind closed doors of an influencer or celebrity's life. All you see is what an influencer chooses you to see. A lot of people were saying, why are people not helping Gabbie? How do you know people aren't helping Gabbie? You're not a person or fucking friend of Gabbie Hanna. You're not somebody who is in the life of her on a day-to-day basis. You're not a family member. You're not a friend. You are a witness to a TikTok. That's absolutely it. And as much as Gabbie was posting hundreds of TikToks a day, that is not even a fraction of what goes on in her life. I don't know what goes on in her life, and that's why I don't turn up to her house trying to be an expert of mental health. Instead, I think that yes, you can air your concerns on social media, but don't take that and amplify it by going to their fucking house and live streaming it. The person that did that, who I will not name, is absolutely pathetic. And honestly, I think they were really lucky that this didn't go in a very bad way for them, because yes, Gabbie did actually find out that he was lying to her face, and Gabbie did react quite badly.
By the way, yes. I know you know who I am. Come on. Why did you lie to me this whole time? Why did you lie to me? That's for my acne, you dumb. Get the fuck out of my house now. Now. Now!
I'm not saying that Gabbie's reaction was bad there because she shouldn't have done that. No, I actually think Gabbie's response was perfectly fine. And honestly, I think her getting even more angry than that would have been completely justified. Because somebody had clearly seen her in a vulnerable state and clearly seen that it was trending on Twitter and thought they could take advantage of that under the pretense of, oh, I'm trying to help. And how do you think that made Gabbie feel at that point of time? I imagine that made her feel absolutely horrible. And this is a prime example of why you should not go to these people's house if you do not know them. If you are not a family or friend, do not go to their house, because for the most part, even if you don't know it, you are going to these people's house under the notion that this is a trending topic. This is something that everyone's speaking about, and if you tell them that you're there because of the situation on the internet, it's probably going to make them very unhappy and probably spiral and get even worse. So for the love of God, stop going to influencers' houses. It was insane to me that people were praising this guy for going to her house, saying that it was the difficult but right thing to do. No, it was just disgusting and ridiculous.
So how was it a lie if I asked to use the restroom and I did? How was that a lie? Please explain to me. Some of y'all need to go back to school.
It was a lie because that wasn't the main reason you went to this house, and don't fucking lie to us. We're not stupid. The reason you went to Gabbie Hanna's house wasn't because you needed a piss. If you needed a piss, just go to your own house, go to a cafe, go to a public toilet where there is a place for you to urinate. You do not need to go to the toilet of somebody who is posting the TikToks that Gabbie was posting at that time during it being the biggest scandal on the internet at the time. That was not the reason. You are lying to us. It's insane that you even tried to say this. The reason that you went to Gabbie Hanna's house was because you wanted to live stream it, you wanted the social media numbers, and you wanted the attention. It's genuinely embarrassing that he would even say this, but his statements just get so much worse.
Publicly apologize to Gabbie. Yeah, maybe once she snaps out of her little psychosis, which I tried to help, but y'all don't care, do you? Nobody actually cares. I'm the only one who actually cares.
I mean, I'm not going to go any further than this because this dickhead doesn't deserve any of my attention, but honestly, that just shows like the level of degree that this guy actually cares. Like, he's like coming into this whole situation being like, oh, I was just trying to help. It's clearly not that. This guy is upset that people are mad at him, but also at the same time, there was like a whole army of people saying, oh no, he did the right thing. I know it's a little bit of a difficult and a grey area, but it's like he was coming in to make sure everything was okay. It's like, no, guys, you are not the fucking Gabbie Hanna psychologist or therapist therapist. You're not Gabbie Hanna's friends. You guys do not know Gabbie Hanna. I don't know Gabbie Hanna. Post your little tweets, post your little YouTube videos, absolutely fine. But don't fucking go to these people's houses because what you see people post on social media, these are little snippets of a day-to-day life of somebody which they choose for you to see. How does this person know that there aren't people helping Gabbie Hanna? And it did actually turn out that yes, the family of Gabbie was trying to help. I genuinely do understand being concerned in this situation. I really, really do. It was a very worrying thing. And as much as I didn't believe it at first, I was at one point sat there just watching this, and I don't really I'm not a fan or anything of Gabbie. I'm in fact a very big critic, and I've disagreed with a lot of things that she's done. But you wouldn't be a human being if you pretended to not care. And I really don't understand the people that actually get mad at people for caring. Don't get me wrong. I'm not doing that. To post your thoughts and your worries is completely fine. But what is happening here with people calling the police, with people trying to get in contact with her family, and with people going to her house? These are not our responsibilities as people on social media. You can be concerned, but you do not know Gabbie Hanna. You do not know anyone in these situations unless you actually are friends or family members of them. Please do not go to their house. Please do not contact the police, because this just shows to me that people really don't understand mental health, because this probably only made things even worse for Gabbie. And I think there's proof in that, in the fact that she kept on posting even more after these people came to her house, after the police came to her house. It's obviously going to make her spiral and get even worse. Gabbie has even recently blamed people for actually making her go into this manic episode, and I think honestly some people can be blamed. Not the people that have given fair criticisms of Gabbie, but the people that have gone to Gabbie's house and the people that called the police on Gabbie. I think I'll end this segment by saying you need to realize that even if this is just the internet to you and internet drama, your actions do have consequences, especially when you are doing the things that we have spoken about today. And I think for future reference and future situations, people need to take this and learn from this and realize that, hey, you don't know everything going on in a situation. Even with this YouTube video, you still, and I still, probably only know a fraction of what is truly going on. And I think that does just move us nicely into the whole criticism aspect of this, because yes, people were also saying that people in the past that have been critical of Gabbie are one of the main reasons to this situation actually happening. This was something a lot of people were saying on social media, that this situation stems from people being critical of Gabbie Hanna over the internet, because obviously she is a content creator who is in the category of being talked about by a lot of content creators. She is somebody quite like Trisha Paytas who is spoken about by a lot of people on the internet and criticized for her actions. In some cases, Gabbie is, in my opinion, criticized fairly, but also at the same time, I do somewhat agree to an extent that yes, Gabbie Hanna is overly criticized on the internet, and that definitely hasn't helped her mental stability. I completely agree with that. Yet at the same time, do I then take that and say, well, all of the criticism is that? No, and I don't understand why on the internet everything needs to be one or two. It has to just be one answer or another. It can never be somewhat of a middle ground. You can say that yes, I agree that Gabbie Hanna being criticized for a fucking neck tattoo is the stupidest thing possible, which I spoke about in a video on my second channel, but at the same time you can say that yes, I also agree that Gabbie Hanna was being fairly criticized when it came to how she treated somebody that reviewed her book.
You manipulative, narcissistic bitch.
This was Gabbie Hanna speaking about Rachel Oates, because Rachel Oates reviewed Gabbie Hanna's book, which I'm pretty sure Gabbie actually gave one of the books to Rachel to read and review. Rachel Oates is a book review channel, and Gabbie was not very happy with Rachel, and I spoke about this situation and said that yes, this is bad, and I think this was a case of Gabbie Hanna being fairly fairly criticized, just like in other plethora of situations where Gabbie has been fairly criticized. I understand that it is a moral grey area to speak about these things when somebody isn't doing well, but at the end of the day, mental health cannot be a shield for continuously doing silly things which you are going to be fairly criticized for. Yes, in some scenarios, mental health can be an excuse for being, I guess, rude to somebody or being nasty. I've had a bad mental health day where I have taken it out on other people, and that's not really an excuse because I then apologized for that, being like, that really shouldn't have been blamed onto you. But at the end of the day, obviously some people can't help lashing out when they aren't having a great day, but as long as you apologize for that in the future, I think it's fine. Because this is the weird thing when it comes to Gabbie, I think, and not just Gabbie, but I think with a lot of people out there, people are trying to take this situation and then take the word criticism and just wipe that word from the dictionary. And yes, as I said, I agree that Gabbie is an overly criticized person, and I definitely think that needs to stop. But at the same time, we can't take a situation like this and use it to fucking score points saying cancel culture bad. Yes, aspects of cancel culture are bad, but at the same time, cancel culture and criticism aren't the same thing. Cancel culture is usually somebody unfairly ruining somebody's life and career, whereas criticism is saying, hey, I disagree with this thing that you did. Now, yes, Gabbie has been affected by both two things here, and I think both things have obviously affected her. So yes, there is a moral grey area here, but I'm going to come on here and say maybe the unpopular opinion of you can criticize people that are mentally ill, because hey, mentally ill people are still human beings too, and I think it's actually rather dehumanizing to say that we shouldn't criticize mentally ill people. Mental illness is a massive part of today's society, and it always has been, and I think if we are going to, I guess, learn about mental illness and gradually come to understand it more in the future, a big part of that needs to be that we can understand that yes, you can still be critical of somebody that doesn't necessarily do mentally well on a day-to-day basis. But then you can also say that, hey, just because plenty of criticisms exist in the past doesn't mean that you need to bring those criticisms up in a non-related situation. For example, this situation with Gabbie where she isn't doing too well. I think it's fair to have your previous criticisms, but there's no need to bring that up here. You can hold them whilst also saying, hey, I'm concerned, hey, I'm worried. I think it's fair to have your previous criticisms, but there's no need to bring that up here. You can hold them whilst also saying, hey, I'm concerned, hey, I'm worried. The logic of saying that we shouldn't criticize somebody because they are mentally unwell is so unbelievably flawed, because if we apply that logic, then surely we need to apply it to absolutely everybody. But then if we do that, how are we going to grow as human beings? Criticism isn't just being cancelled. Criticism comes in all forms of life. Whether you had a bad chess game, whether you were bad at football, whether you were bad at learning a language or playing an instrument, criticism is necessary and a fundamental part to growing as a human being. And as somebody that mentally doesn't do too well myself, I would find it fucking weird if people didn't criticize me because I have my mental bad days. I think that would just be very weird, and it would be very flawed and also very unfair on a lot of people out there. So when it comes to the social media reaction to the Gabbie Hanna situation, I'm going to end this segment by saying, if you have your criticisms of Gabbie from some of the things that she has said during this time and you want to say, hey, why did you say that? Why did you do this? I think that actually is perfectly valid. I think personally my advice would be maybe we should just wait until she's doing a little bit better so we can get more of a clear answer and understanding of what was actually going on. And it seems that a lot of people have happily waited to ask their questions, and Gabbie has actually recently been responding to a lot of these questions. Now, I'm not saying that her responses are necessarily good, and we will go through some of them later, but I do think that it is perfectly fine to have your criticisms and ask questions. Like I get with a lot of things like manic episodes, words, it's obviously going to make somebody lash out and say things that they probably regret saying. But at the same time, I think it's probably fine for somebody who is offended by those words and affected by those words to say, hey, why did you say that thing? So I think the best type of conclusion we can come when it comes to the grey area of criticizing somebody that isn't mentally doing well is, yes, I think it is fine to have your criticisms as long as you're not taking it to a point of where it is harassment or where your criticisms aren't really fair and, to be honest, just become bullying, because as I keep saying, that has very much happened with Gabbie over the last few years. Whether you want to deny that or not, I have definitely, as a content creator in this space, seen that happen quite a lot, and it is something that does deserve to be called out and said, hey, this definitely has affected Gabbie over the course of the last few years, and we do need to speak about that. Yet at the same time, I don't think it's fair to say that people can't ask questions of why did you say this and why did you do that. I think that is genuinely quite ridiculous, because whether you think that Gabbie meant what she said in her TikToks or not, ultimately those words do affect people, and ultimately those words are coming from a platform with somebody who has millions of followers, and that is going to be impactful, and I think people are totally entitled to ask questions. So yeah, I'm gonna end this segment by saying I think criticism is fine as long as it doesn't go absolutely overboard and isn't misconstrued into actually bullying. But I think the best way to kind of cover this and go over this is actually to speak to a professional, which, hey, I've actually done, and this person has chosen to remain anonymous, but as I said previously, I got the opportunity to ask a few questions from a professional psychotherapist and psychologist about this situation involving Gabbie, but also just in general situations like this in the real world outside of social media, and how we can, as just regular human beings, deal with these things in the future, and how we can actually react to these things. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into what I asked. The first question I said, there has been a lot of speculation over the mental state of Gabbie Hanna. Do you think that is a bad idea? Given the majority of society doesn't really understand a lot of the things that they're speculating over, especially mania, could this lead to more problems? Because as I've said throughout this entire video, there has been a lot of speculation and a lot of people diagnosing Gabbie with specific things that they're not even experts on themselves, and naturally I am a little bit concerned that that could have a lot of negative impacts. Whilst I think it is fine to be worried and concerned and see that some traits line up with certain things, I don't think it's fair to outright go to somebody's comment section and say, you have this thing. So yeah, the doctor, who is remaining unnamed, replied saying, I think speculating on someone's health in general is a never good idea. Even us professionals stay away from naming diagnosis before assessing a patient. Speculating on someone's mental health, in my view, is the same as speculating about somebody's guiltiness in a television trial. Entertaining, but often inaccurate and definitely unaware of the whole truth. Is this speculating harmful? As everything, it depends from the intention behind it. If it is to discuss a topic, as I believe your video intends to do, then there is a great good that can come from normalizing mental health conversation. And yeah, generally I do agree with this. I think talking about mental health and talking about certain mental disorders and the traits and things that can happen with those mental disorders is a good thing. I think it allows us to understand these things more, especially when it's somebody who actually suffers from these said mental disorders, where they can help give us other perspectives on them. And just in general, I think having a conversation over social media about mental health is a good thing, as long as you're not pretending to be an expert and diagnosing people. So the next thing I asked was the question in regards to criticism of somebody who is mentally ill or just in general struggling, and do they in general think it's good or right to be critical of somebody's bad actions when they are going through a mental health crisis? And their answer, to be honest, was pretty much everything that I've said throughout this video, that the answer is in the law. Is mental health an excuse for bad behavior? No. If bad behavior is dependent of mental health, is it fair to punish a person who might be genetically predisposed to act badly? The answer for me is still yes. We all have choices, although for some they are less. I worked in prison for 4 years, But we do. Mental health has often been used as an excuse for bad behavior, but there is no scientific evidence to say that someone with a certain genetic predisposition or mental illness has to compulsively act badly. I think it is comforting for society to think that people who commit crimes are different, they have something wrong with them, and this attitude was used in the past for mentally ill people too. We closed them in mental institutions. This is the way society and all individually defend ourselves from the idea that we could also become crazy, that we could also become bad. And yeah, I completely agree. I definitely think that there is this weird thing in society of where somebody does something bad and we immediately need to attach certain things to it. It can never just be, oh yeah, I agree that this thing is bad. It's always, oh well, what about this factor and what about this factor? And whilst in a lot of situations there are other factors, it is weird to me that in society we instantly jump to having to go to other factors before we actually criticize and give our opinions on things. I think it's fine to take certain things into context, but ultimately I don't think that context can always be an excuse for certain bad actions. So yeah, I pretty much agree with everything being said here so far, and then I kind of tried to put a more positive spin on this by saying, how can we actually deal with these issues? What is the best solution to these things? And is things like calling the police a good idea? I mean, obviously not, but you know, I'm asking a professional here, and this is what they had to say. Generally, I wouldn't recommend getting involved with anyone's medical emergency, as such can be considered a manic episode if you do not know the person and are not a medical professional. The guy going to Gabbie's house, bad idea. Manic episodes are often tinted with paranoia, and the last thing the person needs is a stranger jumping into their life. So who should be getting involved with Gabbie? Her family, her friends, the real ones, and not the ones online, and the medical professionals involved with her. And this is pretty much what I've been saying throughout my entire video. I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm always right about everything, because I'm absolutely not. But I do find it quite mad that people think that this guy going to Gabbie's house was a good idea. Now, I know for the most part people don't think that, but I have been in live streams where people have been praising it and saying it was a difficult but right decision. It absolutely is not, and it has only proven to have made things even worse for Gabbie. But also I think the same thing with people calling the police. It obviously made things worse and is never a good idea. Which they then clarify by saying, is it a good idea to involve the police? Again, only if you know the person and you have enough evidence to believe that they are a risk to themselves or others. We often do this at the NHS after assessing of patients who then drop the call, and I think that is perfectly valid, because at that point of time you can easily be worried and suspicious that something bad is going to happen, especially after an assessment and then the call drops. I think that is perfectly valid, but what happened with Gabbie in this situation definitely was not that. They then go on to explain what a welfare check is and how this can work in these situations, but again, it clearly is very dependent on what the actual situation is, and I don't really think that that was applicable to the Gabbie Hanna situation. And then they say, my advice in regards to this whole situation is to use it about the right things. Mental health and how more and more people seem to be affected by issues, and how social media impacts on this as well, and how to just be human online and apply the same level of compassion and understanding you would apply for a person suddenly fainting on the street. And I genuinely believe that that is a perfect analogy. There is this weird thing on the internet of where we will treat people differently to how we would treat them online, and I know it's very easy to do that because, you know, you're behind a screen, you don't see the person face to face. It's easy to say and tweet shit, but ultimately I do think that in situations like this we need to have more compassion and just in general a little bit more empathy. And even in situations where there are fair criticisms, I think maybe we can be a little bit more empathetic and say in some things, yeah, I think that maybe we're going overboard here. Because even I've made videos in the past, not on Gabbie, but on other people, where I've then a few months later thought, well, I was being a little bit too harsh there, or I was being a little bit harsh there. And you regret it, but ultimately you learn from that. And I think that's what this entire situation can be. A bit of a learning opportunity of how we can then deal with these situations in the future. So yeah, I think this pretty much gets us up to speed in the present day of this situation. I feel like we've gone through absolutely everything up until today. And yeah, to me, all I can take from this is another case of where the internet has gone absolutely wild and shown that most people really don't have an actual understanding when it comes to mental illness. Now, as I've said a few times throughout this video, yes, Gabbie is still to this day posting about this situation because Gabbie did actually delete all of the TikToks from this situation and has been recently giving people a lot of reasons to that. She's been blaming edibles, and as I've said throughout this video, blaming other people for this situation and for triggering her to going into an actual manic episode, and she explained all of this in a 3-minute long TikTok, which has infuriated a lot of people, and I'm just gonna play it for you all right now. And yes, this is quite long, but I think you all should hear the full context.
Okay, so if you don't know by now, I love the number 7. So I think this is going to be the last one, but I did want to address why I deleted them all or most of the videos. The first reason is just that there were so fucking many of them. I feel like that's why a lot of people were calling me manic in the first place, which was actually really triggering and probably took me out of a hypomanic episode and into a manic episode. I feel like I get so defensive so quickly because of just like the constant fucking mental abuse and harassment I get online. I'm like very quick to fucking build my walls up. It doesn't take a lot of time to post a TikTok. It takes anywhere between 3 seconds and 3 minutes, and yeah. They just change so much in content and context. Like when I went back to the beginning and I was watching it, it was just spoken word poetry about homeless children and homelessness and religion and aliens and witches and numbers and the Matrix and the simulation theory. And yeah, I screamed in that video, the help me video, because I am trying to get attention on it. But just because I'm responding to a poem with passion and emotion and performing, that was performance. Help me, help me, help me, help us. That was performance. But then when it turns into people calling the police because they're not listening to what I'm saying in context, they're just looking into the drama of it, and now it's like a whole different fucking thing. It did spiral into something else. So when I look back at those videos, I'm like, this is actually sad. A lot of them are sad. A lot of them to me are funny, and a lot of them to me are still incredibly clever and artistic in ways that I don't believe that people give me the credit to give me the time to look into the spelling and the grammar and the punctuation and realize that I am actually doing something really intentional.
Okay, I'm not going to come on here and argue with you guys over whether Gabbie Hanna is the next Da Vinci or not, but I definitely can say that Gabbie, let's be real, not many people perceive TikTok to be art, and I think this is a little bit of a cop-out, and I don't think it's fair to blame absolutely everyone, because ultimately when you're making TikTok saying things like help me, that's obviously going to worry people. That can't be perceived as art, because at the end of the day, I mean, I know anything can be art, but let's be real, screaming help me isn't really going to come off as art to the general audience. You know, I just can't lie and sit here and say that it is. Like, I'm trying to be realistic in this video and say, yes, this clearly was a worrying situation, and to play it off as art, I just can't do that. Like, if we played an example of one of the posts that Gabbie was putting out there, I do think that it's pretty wild that this is meant to be perceived as art.
Hey TikTok, hey Gen Z, I got a question for you, because I can't sleep, but I can see. Why are you so accepting of the idea of dissociative identity disorder, where little kids decide that they can switch personalities whenever they want, and they all have different names and wear different clothes, and they have their own little room in the house that you built in your mind, and here's how you get to it. I feel like someone else now. Did you fucking meditate and create something with your imagination? It's almost as if you create your own reality. And because you don't have faith in God, and because you didn't just say, God, I'm kind of fucking scared, I believe in you. Will you please only allow me to see what you want me to see? Please only allow me to hear the truth.
I genuinely don't know how I'm meant to sit here and pretend what I'm hearing is art. Personally, what I hear here is a pretty bad and offensive statement. And again, if it comes down to the whole thing of, you know, Gabbie was going for a bad time, I mean, she literally said in that TikTok, because of all the speculation, it very much affected her. So what are we meant to do here without all the context that we've currently learned? Are we meant to just sit by and critique this statement? Because if we're going to do that, then we're going to get more and more people saying, oh, you shouldn't be critiquing her because she's going for a bad time. It's very contradictory on both sides. We can't speculate. So what do? Take this as a video of where you genuinely believe that DID isn't a real thing, so we comment and criticize that? Or do we then say, oh, but we shouldn't do that because we don't want to upset them? I'm not really understanding the flawed logic here. We either speculate that something's not wrong, or we take this as fact and criticize it. But ultimately, I think we need to come to some middle ground and say, hey, I clearly think that whilst on one side of the argument, a lot of people did a lot of bad things, at the same time, there was very clearly something wrong, and I can't blame absolutely anybody for worrying and being a little bit speculative. I'm going to conclude this situation by saying it's just absolutely sad to see what's going on here. Now, Gabbie has actually in the last day come onto Instagram and said she is leaving social media for a little bit, and I genuinely do think that's the best thing to do here. And I've said it a million times now, but I think what that Gabbie's best, path to go down is just music and focusing on that stuff. Now, ultimately, it's not as easy as said, but I do think that's the best way for her to move on with her career. But ultimately, the situation, it's just depressing. I think all we can do to have some positive spin is just learn from this and do better in future situations. And honestly, as much as I'm critical of Gabbie, I do wish but nothing but improvement in her life and just in general a bit of a successful career. But at the same time, I do think Gabbie needs to understand that not all the criticism directed her way isn't just people being hateful, it's people who just in general are a little bit upset. And I think even with the situation of the TikTok speaking about DID, I can understand why people would be upset by that. And Gabbie needs to understand that it's perfectly fine for somebody to be upset by statements like that. And in fact, I do want to end this video by speaking about DID, because with that TikTok I showed previously, there has been even more conversation to do with DID on TikTok and on social media, because there's always been this stigma around DID of people saying it's fake, it's not real, it's just a lie, and people doing it for attention. Now, I'm under the belief that DID is a very, very real and serious thing that a lot of people do have and deal with every single day. And I think it is a bit worrying that Gabbie did make a popular TikTok, which again got people debating and saying very speculative things about DID not being real and people just in general debating it. And honestly, I just think it's sad because statements like this really do affect people who actually do have DID.
See, when people say things like invalidate the DID community, I remember saying that I cured DID because I was convinced as that I had DID. Dead ass. I talked to my therapist about it. I talked to family members about it. I really thought I had DID. I would watch back footage of myself and be like, who the is that? Like, I would have different voices, different mannerisms. Like, it was really disorienting to me. And then I would watch back these dissociative episodes where I would literally, and in fact, I have so many of them on camera where I do the thing, like where they say that they're like switching personas, right? So I'm like, holy shit, I have DID. And I'm not saying that anybody else doesn't or that it's not real. And that's what's so frustrating with the internet in general is like these heavy things like you're invalidating DID. I said, I cured DID, ADHD, and OCD. It's so frustrating!
Now, I'm not going to comment on this, and in fact, I'm not going to give my long-form opinion on DID and how it's handled on TikTok. Instead, what I've done is brought on and asked a curator if they could give their opinion and their thoughts on how they deal with DID every single day, because Pixie, the person who you're about to see, is a DID system, and I thought it would be best to just bring on a DID system and tell you all how they deal with it on a day-to-day basis, how it impacts their their life, and just in general, how the stigma surrounding DID affects them. This isn't an attack on Gabbie Hanna. I just wanted to end this video with a little bit of information out there, and just to show how a lot of the stigma and debates around DID can actually be very harmful.
Hi there, my name is Pixie, and I just got a lovely message from Fraser wanting to chat about DID and stigma in society and stuff, so I can definitely do that. I was professionally diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder about a year ago, November 2021. DID is extremely complex and misunderstood even by people in the professional field, so it usually takes people several years. I think the statistic is 7 to 12 years in the mental health system to finally be diagnosed correctly with DID, which is about what it was for me. So throughout the years of being diagnosed with like anxiety, depression, and then BPD, and then DID, it's been clear as day to me how people treat each one differently. And DID is a really interesting case because people deny its existence entirely. I think a lot of the disbelief in DID as a disorder at all does come from people that are lucky enough to have minds that work normally or are not disordered. And because their minds don't work that way, obviously it's really hard to imagine experiencing that. It does sound not far-fetched, but it's really complicated. And the brain is a really, really wild computer, and it is kind of hard to wrap your brain around the fact that this is real. But, you know, going around online and just like shitting on anyone that has DID and saying this isn't real, this is fake, it's not helping. It's not helping. As well as this unfortunate recent social media, it's really seen as a trend. Like Lil Miss mentioned, teens in wigs. And, you know, I think that's harmful. I think teenagers are gonna do whatever teenagers do, and I don't think that we should attack all of the hundreds of thousands, I don't know how many freaking people in the world have DID, but we're not all just teenagers on TikTok. Some of us do have TikTok. Some of us do wear wigs. God forbid some of us have blue hair, pronouns, and a septum ring. One thing that I found really discouraging is that if you scroll down to the comments of the aforementioned TikTok that I believe we're talking about, it's one of the only TikToks where people are commenting, she's kind of right here though. Okay, she makes sense in this one. Gotta be on her side in this one. As a YouTuber, I lost a chunk of following when I came out about my diagnosis because people to this day, just, you know, a percentage of my audience don't think it's real. And that sucks. That sucks, but it's just part of life. And let's not add any more to that. Let's not add any more to that plate because it's fucking hard enough. It is debilitating enough just living with the disorder. All of this stigma and this disbelief can't handle it. I know no one's gonna listen to the girl in the pink wig in the rainbow room, but thank you for listening. The universe has so many complex phenomena. Just because I don't understand, like, rocket science doesn't mean I'm gonna go to NASA and be like, this is fake. I think you just did a doodle. So yeah, end of the day, please don't say this shit. I really honestly believe that if people just dug into it a little deeper and actually learned about the science a little bit, I think you would understand. I think you would know and understand that it's a real disorder that people really suffer with. And yeah, it's not always blacking out in the desert and waking up with a scarab in your hand. Anyway, Moon Knight reference. I'm annoying. Thank you, Fraser!
Now, firstly, I do just want to say thank you very much to Pixie for coming on and just in general giving you guys a bit of a perspective about DID and how it's dealt with in society in general. I really hope that did kind of give you guys a little bit of an understanding, because it does make me very upset to see all of the stigma and debate surrounding DID, and this Gabbie situation really only amplified that. Again, I am very critical of Gabbie and what she said in those TikToks, but this is just in general being said by me right now because I think it's a very important topic away from the Gabbie Hanna situation. To conclude this entire thing, I think all we can take from this is that we really, as a society, need to do better. We need to realize that calling the police on mentally ill people 9 times out of 10 isn't a good idea. Going to the house of mentally ill people when you don't know them isn't a good idea. And just in general, a lot of the things and point scorings on social media is not a good idea. What I think we've gone through today is the moral dilemma of criticism on on the internet, because I think we all do just need to understand and comprehend and not lie to ourselves that yes, criticism is going to upset people, and it could upset people in different ways. So take that and realize that maybe we shouldn't criticize people for the stupidest things. Not just Gabbie, Hanna, but other celebrities in general who get criticized for the most pointless shit possible. I'm not saying you can't make your jokes and laugh, because I'm guilty of that myself, but when we go and attempt to ruin somebody's career because, I don't know, they said something silly about, I don't know, they didn't like the latest Marvel film, I don't know. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, I guess it's like a real cliche, but yeah, I think we just need to realize that our words, they do have impact on the internet, and that's a good thing, but also a bad thing. I mean, to bring up superheroes, with great power comes great responsibility, and that is very cliche, but honestly, I think it can be applied here. I understand that my videos will upset a lot of influencers and a lot of the people that I speak about. I'm not playing like a blissful ignorance here. I know my videos probably don't positively affect Gabbie, Hanna, but obviously I try my best to make these videos as fair as possible, and sometimes I will mess up, as will other content creators, but I think on the internet we do just need to try and be more and more fair, and this situation is just another example of that. Thank you for watching this video. I know it's been long, a bit rambly, but I just want to give a long form opinion after everything has ended and Gabbie has now left social media. I just thought this would be the best opportunity to do it, and I understand a lot of you will disagree with a lot of my points. That's perfectly fine. This is a situation where there are so many opinions, and I would love to hear those opinions in the comment section, so please go comment them down below. I'd love to have a chat with you all, and also if you would be an absolute hero, please like this video, please subscribe, because, you know, it helps in the algorithm. Please follow my social medias, iNabber69 on Twitter, iNabber on Instagram. It's all there in the description. Thank you very much for coming on to this video, and I'll probably be uploading in the next few days. See you later, everybody. Have a cracking day, and please don't get that mad in the comment section. At the end of the day, it's just an opinion. Bye-bye.